And welcome back to Own Your Career. This is Rod Colon with Blog Talk Radio online at blogtalkradio.com/Own Your Career. And certainly we'll always taking your calls so you can listen in by dialing 347-857-3320. That's 347-857-3320. Producing our show in our virtual studio is Alicia Ramos. Now I'd like to bring on a good friend of many years, BJ Javadi. BJ is the founder of VinPro Coaching, a business advisory and executive coaching company. His portfolio includes over a decade of leading the business operations of a tech consulting services organization. He helps leaders to enhance their effectiveness and adapt their style to amplify their team's performance. He is an advisory board member for CX at Seton Hall University, New Jersey, and BJ has been bestowed the Community Star Awards for his exemplary work as an industry advisory council member at the Edison Job Corps Academy. And with that, let's bring on BJ Javadi. Welcome, BJ.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Rod, for inviting me on your radio show. Today, I would like to talk about how we can uncover radical insights from our mistakes. I want to share with our listeners a way to reflect on our shortcomings, failures, etc., and figure out the nuggets of wisdom and lessons. This would help in our planning and execution for our time going forward. For the most part, we run our lives in autopilot mode, going through the ups and downs. How about taking a moment to reflect on the events and uncover some valuable lessons and insights? Let us introspect the means to figure out key lessons from our past events, especially those moments wherein we took some decisions and the outcome was suboptimized. As the old saying goes, to err is human, to forgive is divine. How about altering this proverb as to err is human, to learn from it is divine? Making errors is perfectly normal. However, it is paramount that we also learn how to gather radical insights from our mistakes and consequently direct the experience not towards self-loathing but towards personal growth. This skill will prove to be one of the most useful skills both in your everyday life and in your professional development. Reflecting on the causes and results as objectively as possible will render your decision making to be more cautious, conscientious, and capable of overcoming potential errors. Sometimes it can be hard to face our failure directly, and yet it is a necessary step towards self-growth. So why is self-reflection so important? Developing a habit of gathering radical insights from your failures or shortcomings allows you to use every single situation as a scaffolding for self-improvement. Some people believe that a human being is a sum of their failures and successes. More importantly, improving your ways would be impossible if you never had the opportunity to see how you are mistaken. Once you are aware of your internal urges, cravings, and faults, you are equipped to analyze yourself and your acts both subjectively and objectively. The goal in this journey towards complete self-awareness is to apply this knowledge to understand others as well as on to understand ourselves. When you reach this state of mind, it will be beneficial both in your professional and personal relationships. It is rarely the case that a skill can be both deeply spiritual and pragmatic. But once you observe your behavior from this perspective, you will learn soon enough that this is in fact the case. What are these radical insights that promote our self-growth? Deep, radical, and novel insights of the sort we have mentioned are a product of our interaction with every facet and domain of our day-to-day life. It is not entirely true that only radical mistakes lead to radical revelations. However, it cannot be denied that certain events in our lives, such as the death of a loved person, the birth of our children, migration to another city or another country, transition to a different profession, etc., leave the most significant trace on our minds, hearts, and our personalities. Moreover, seemingly minor mistakes, events, or changes can also provide a fertile ground for self-growth. Sometimes we become overwhelmed and irritable to other people during stressful situations. It may be challenging to realize that our family or co-workers are suffering due to our self-centeredness and lack of self-reflection. At times, it is even difficult to recognize that we are in the wrong. In those moments, it's so difficult to develop the habit of self-reflecting even when you are certain that you are not the one who is at fault. It is precisely due to such oversight that it is essential to develop the habit of gaining insights from our failures and shortcomings. In fact, it does not take a trip to some exotic place or spiritual getaway to expand our capacity to self-reflect on our mistakes. Deriving insights got to be ingrained into our daily lives to help us when making our decisions and planning our future. Consider your capacity to self-reflect as a system of checks and balances that will stall the choices prompted by selfishness and personal ego. We need to keep in mind the extent of the influence that we have on the people that surround us. Each individual life is a matrix of benevolent and malevolent actions, words, and relationships. However, the traditional dichotomy of good and evil usually does not hold in everyday situations, such as your relationship with your staff or co-workers or your loved ones. Most failures to establish a productive and cooperative environment stem from forgetfulness in the form of such as forgetting the wants and needs of the people around us, negligence of our duties and responsibilities, or simply ignoring to focus on our priorities. For this reason, it is crucial to keep in mind that our actions need to be motivated not by self-interest, but by the realization that so many people rely on us and look up to us. Let's introspect the characteristics of an insightful person. A fundamental characteristic of an insightful person is that she always holds the postulates of mindful behavior as fundamental truths in their work life. An insightful individual is a teacher and a student at the same time. This means that an insightful individual has the capacity to be mindful of everything around them and learn a worthy lesson from every situation, conflict, or failure, no matter how insignificant or minor it may seem on the surface. Let us look at a few examples to illustrate how this awareness and mindfulness of our surroundings works. We observe extremely wealthy people frequently organize charity events. The insight that we gather, vanity and hubris are rebranded as humanitarianism. Another observation, a person is smoking a cigar in their electric automobile. The insight that we gather, human beings are inconsistent beings that contradict themselves. Health needs to be a state of mind, not an accessory. Another observation, a lion hunts down the gazelle under the light of the setting sun. The insight we gather, nature is equal parts order and chaos. Both are essential for sustaining life as life ought to be. Let us further explore an example of applying all of the above. For instance, a person left a company a little while back and is now regretting that decision. Using the above method, the steps for uncovering insights and lessons would be: first, accept the past. The decision has been made, and then accept the subsequent consequences. Set aside a time to non-judgmentally reflect on the events and circumstances that led to taking the decision to leave the company. Visit those moments and find your thoughts or behaviors or your state of being in those moments. Analyze specifically what caused the trigger without blaming yourself or external people or the occurring situation at that time. Gather the most essential and valuable lessons. After gathering these nuggets of wisdom, come out of the past and absolve yourself completely from any guilt or remorse. Keep the insights ingrained in your mind for using it next time when such a situation comes up. This will help you take a better informed choice and make a more prudent decision. It's important to note that we are, in this case, revisiting the past to uncover valuable lessons and not to keep ruminating over the past and to make us feel guilty. I remember how I felt when I left my business partnership in the early 90s. The lingering thoughts, revisiting the past, ultimately, all of this led me to feel guilty about leaving my business partners. This state of despair made me get into a depression. So be very careful when you reflect on the past. Understand the prime objective of doing so is to gather radical insights and valuable lessons. And once you have gathered that, please let the past go. Try to practice different ways to gather such radical insights from your past mistakes or past failures, as well as from your environment. Hopefully, learning the essential characteristics and skills of a mindful individual will help you deal with mistakes as they show up in your work life and will help in working on yourself for personal growth. Finally, I want to wish you all a good evening and a great week ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, BJ. Really appreciate that. And that was BJ Javadi, founder of Vinpro Coaching, on gathering radical insights from your mistakes. You can find more information on BJ at www.vinprocoaching.com. That's VINPRO coaching.